this was also a time of food shortage. So they said that public sector will open a bakery. So sarkar roti banane lagi. Any problem, and we used to say nationalize. But then there was this awareness that bureaucracy is not necessarily the best way of doing things. A steel factory, a textile factory, fertilizer factory, drinking water, it requires engineers and not babus, and babus are not trained to do it. So we moved away from it. There was also corruption. But after 20 years, it happened when? 1984-85. This liberalization did not start with Sri Manmohan Singh ji. It started with Sri Rajiv Gandhi, who said that the factories are for producing goods and not for jobs. And he started dismantling the public sector structure. But today, corporate capitalism is having a record of nearly 25 years of one-way traffic. You have a corporate capital proposal, and there'll be a clear green signal, because we thought they'll bring in efficiency, they'll bring international technology, they'll bring new management, not babugiri, not filebaji. But what has happened in the last 25 years? There is very severe indictment of the impact of liberalization. We have some gains also. We have Narayan Murthy's and Ajim Premji's, but we have also Naxalism. We have corruption at a very high level. We have some kind of a situation where you cannot take the whole thing and you cannot leave the whole thing. Corporate capitalism is a third source, and this is now becoming unacceptable because it is becoming crony capitalism. If you do not have access to the people who are in power at the state level or the central level, your project in itself will not have a basis to make a judgment. And now the stories are fascinating and mind-boggling and sometimes very disappointing. एक उदाहरण आंध्र प्रदेश, चोरों में झगड़ा हो गया है, तो कहानी खुल गया. Rajshekhar Reddy was supposed to be messiah of peasants, and even Naxals had supported Rajshekhar Reddy. वो बेचारा एक एक्सीडेंट में मारा गया. तो उसका लड़का बोला कि पापा गया तो बेटा है, आप घबराओ नहीं, सोनिया जी हम आपका साथ है. सोनिया जी बोले नहीं नहीं, हमको आपका साथ नहीं चाहिए, राहुल जी के लिए तुम खतरा पैदा कर देगा, तो हम किसी और को खोजेगा, तुम उधर घर से बाहर निकलो. Then they arrested him, and the story of money making by the children or the child of Sri Rajshekhar Reddy is now publicized larger than life by Congress itself. He is in jail for corrupt practices. He was not member of parliament even for a day before all this happened. लेकिन जब चुनाव लड़ा तो 18 सीट में से 17 सीट जगन रेड्डी का पार्टी जीत गया. I mean, is this democracy which should be more of the same, or we need to change? I think Congress is saying we need to change it. Not only us. Same is the story of CPM. 35 साल का पार्टी राज चला. उन्होंने कॉर्पोरेट कैपिटलिज्म के साथ शादी कर लिया. उनका एक्चुअल शादी तो पीपुल्स इकोनॉमी के साथ था, पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी ऑफ सोशलिज्म. लेकिन उनका एक इलिजिटिमेट शादी हो गया जिसको जनता से नहीं पूछा था. फिर जनता ने सिंगूर में, जनता ने पूरे बंगाल के पैमाने पर जो ये नया पॉलिटिक्स आया, सलीम को लेके आए इंडोनेशिया से, टाटा को लेकर के आए कार बनाने के लिए, खेतों पर कब्जा किया, तो मेधा पाटकर जैसे लोग आगे बढ़े, लड़े, और उन्होंने आम आदमी का जो दुख है और आम आदमी के साथ जो डिस्कनेक्ट है हमारी लेफ्ट पार्टीज का और कॉर्पोरेट कैपिटलिज्म के साथ जो इलेजिटिमेट बॉन्डिंग है उसको दिखाया. सो कॉर्पोरेट कैपिटलिज्म हैज फेल्ड इंडिया टुडे बिकॉज इट हैज बीन परवर्टेड इनटू क्रोनी कैपिटलिज्म. And then the fourth thing is very dangerous. It could be basis of India's progress, communal harmony, caste-based inequality elimination. But now it is getting converted into vote bank politics. And so there is inner kind of a contradiction about our project of secularization. In the name of secularization, we are promoting some kind of communalization. Soft communalism is being promoted in the name of Indian identity by the majority community as well as minority communities. Among the Muslims and the Christians and the Sikhs and the Buddhists, fundamentalists are having much more appeal than the moderate middle class secularized voices of their communities. And so is the story with Hindus as Hindus. Hindus as Indians was an invention of the great thinkers and great reformers from Vivekananda to Gandhi. But now Indians and Hindus is the new identity we are trying to create and promote. And this communalism is cutting both ways, is hurting the poor, because the solidarity of the trade union movement, solidarity of the workers' movement, peasant movement is being fractured, particularly in urban cases. There is not much of protest and resistance by urban poor, because urban poor are immediately divided by a small communal question, Ram Navami, Tajia, Masjid, Mandir, and there is no solidarity in urban India to resist against injustices. And in case of caste politics, it is getting converted into nepotism. Caste is being used to dilute the question of common cause. And this has been rejected by people of Bihar. Many people criticize Biharis for being so-called the backwaters of Indian democracy, crime, politics, nexus, casteism. But in Bihar, it was for the first time that an agenda of development was accepted against all kinds of myth-making about social justice. And people said, this time we want to vote development. And yes, BJP is there in alliance with Janata Dal United. But I think they can be managed. And we have to go beyond these 15 years of identity politics, which has really delivered us nothing except Gunda Raj, or they call it Jungle Raj. And among the Dalits, some of you may be aware of this movement, which is going through some kind of self-criticism. Because some communities which are more urbanized, more educated, are eating away most of the opportunities which Constitution has created for promoting social justice. So there is some kind of a bottleneck in our social justice project, some kind of a bottleneck in our secularization project, some kind of a bottleneck in our democracy project. There is need to change it. So where to start? Is like asking someone like me who has studied sociology to fix a computer. I don't know. I only know how to push the button to start and how to push the button to move the cursor and mouse. But I need a computer scientist to fix my computer. And this kind of mind-boggling complexity makes us withdraw. ये अपने बस की बात नहीं है, ये नेतागिरी अपने बस की बात नहीं है, राजनीति अपने बस की बात नहीं है. And this is where there is a great turn. We start from the symptoms and then we'll go to the reasons. The symptom of the failure of our democratic system is corruption at high places, crime, politics, nexus, return of communalism and casteism in the garb of secularization and social justice, high centralization even in most democratic parties, ranging from Congress to some of the spin-off of JP movement. And of course, the greatest disappointment by corporate capitalist class. They have no sense of corporate social responsibility. Right from Plachimada movement against Coca-Cola in Kerala to anti-POSCO movement in Orissa, we have this whole writing on the wall that you can't trust these guys. They'll eat away our forests, they'll drink all the water of river and underground water, and in return they'll be very, very minimal. And therefore, the categories and the classes and the regions of India which welcomed liberalization today are totally disenchanted, starting from Punjab to Karnataka. What do we do now? What is the basic failure? The basic failure is India's middle class. It left its duty of citizenship. India's middle class is growing, and most of the people of India want to become part of middle class. Isn't it? That's why they're getting their children educated. That's why they're moving around like crazy to get new skills, new opportunities. Migration has become a way of life. But middle class is becoming apolitical. And to some extent also anti-constitution, anti-national. And this is where there is a great breakthrough. Unbelievable development. This Aam Aadmi Party hardcore is full of such people who are achievers, who are performers, who are success stories in so many ways, who are role models. But they feel dissatisfied with their own role, their own capacity. They have decided to walk shoulder to shoulder with ordinary men and women. So they have come to Jantar Mantar. And they have started a campaign of self-criticism and asking how to fix it. And we started with one small beginning, and that was, let us catch the corrupt. Corruption as a way of life may have been okay till yesterday, but it is not okay for tomorrow. How do we catch it? Let us see the legal loophole. You have CBI after me about my corruption as minister or member of parliament. And you have Prime Minister having dinner with me because I have 5 or 7 or 17 members of parliament. And if I move away, then the government will collapse. What kind of a system is this? Where चोर से कहो चोरी करे और साव से कहो जागते रहे, कैसे चलेगा? सीबीआई का मुकदमा या तो गलत है या कैबिनेट में तुम्हारा रहना गलत है. And in between these two, there is this whole politics of what they call compulsion of coalition. क्यों ऐसा किया? क्या करे, सरकार गिर जाती लेकिन देश तो खड़ा रहता. अभी सरकार तो चल रही है लेकिन देश रुक गया. और इसीलिए आम आदमी पार्टी का आना एक नया चैप्टर बन रहा है. इसमें ये नहीं देखना है कि इस पार्टी का बीजेपी से कैसे मुकाबला होगा, इसका कांग्रेस से कैसे मुकाबला होगा, इसका रीजनल जो बॉसेस हैं करुणानिधि जी के मुकाबले में, जयललिता जी के मुकाबले में तमिलनाडु में आम आदमी पार्टी क्या कर सकती है. वो कुछ ऐसा सवाल होगा जिसका कि जवाब हमेशा ना में निकलेगा. और इसीलिए लॉट ऑफ गुड पीपल हैव गॉन इनटू दिस स्मॉल और बिग पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज इन द नेम ऑफ पॉलिटिकल प्रैग्मेटिज्म. यार हम तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते हैं, अगर चुनाव लड़ना है तो इन्हीं का कोई टिकट लेकर के आओ, अगर अपनी बात को कहना है तो इन्हीं की पार्टियों में चले जाओ. सम ऑफ द बेस्ट पीपल हैव सरेंडर्ड देयर courage in the name of political pragmatism, or they have been marginalized out of major political parties. These two paradoxical situations are such which require a new solution. Aam Aadmi Party is that solution, where citizen is the basis of our success and failure. If people are having more caps, ये जो टोपी पहना है आप लोगों ने यहाँ रखा है, if there are people who are willing to stand out and get counted, then it is a story of success. And if people are only waiting for member of parliament to come and guide us, minister to be your path finder, then it's really narrowing, it's surrendering your citizenship rights, your duties. And in the last 2 years, it has become much more practical today to talk about national questions and think about national solutions. Earlier we were talking about questions, but there was no capacity to think about solutions. Today Aam Aadmi Party is the first initiative which has created 35 expert committees. And it was so unbelievable that we approached them and they said, yes, we want to sit with you. We don't have any other way except to do it. It's dangerous, it's risky. To criticize Mukesh Ambani is one of the most risky things one can imagine. But that's the only way to talk about it. Otherwise, things are going to get more beyond control. To talk about Robert Vadera is necessary, though it is very risky. You're taking on the first family. But this first family is creating a role model for all the millions of families. Anybody in politics is setting a precedence that yes, if I'm son-in-law of a big politician, I have the right and the opportunity and maybe privilege to bend the laws. And this syndrome has been operating for too long. For 30 years, we have failed ourselves because we became a little soft about our own interests. We put our interests above party, party's interests above nation. Now there is some kind of a U-turn. And this is where Aam Aadmi Party needs a lot of citizens. I mean, it's not only Arvind Kejriwal. Sometimes Arvind Kejriwal gets exhausted. Yogendra Yadav was telling yesterday that so many messages, so many mails, देश का नेता कैसा हो, आपके जैसा हो. ये नारा बहुत खतरनाक है. It's very wrong because you are then surrendering your right and duty to be an initiator, a change agent to somebody out there. This is the pathology of representative democracy. Whatever was beautiful in representative democracy has been delivered by it in the last 65 years. Now it has become counterproductive. We need participatory democracy. We need decentralization of power. We need check of corruption. And we need frontal attack on communalism and casteism. This tokenism of simplistic reservation formula where everybody is unhappy. जिसने पाया वो पछताया और जिसने नहीं पाया वो ज़्यादा पछताया. You ask a Dalit graduate in India today, how are you doing? And he doesn't have an answer. Because rest of the society says that you shut up. You have reservation for last 65 years. You have no right to complain. And he says that the public sector is shrinking. Private sector has no reservation. Where do I go? And this is the dilemma of everybody. You ask a minority person, and they say that, my God, the whole country is occupied by majoritarian democracy tendencies. And then others are joking with them. Come on. Minorities are having all those privileges. You don't have to follow many of the constitutional provisions like reservation in your institutions. You have no right to complain. So it has become a mixed bag. And Aam Aadmi Party is opening the minds of India and saying very boldly that there are some standard old questions, they need new answers. We have no answers. You ask my friends in BJP and CPM and Congress, and they are so hypocritical. They have no answers, because if they had answers, Dr. Manmohan Singh has been ruling the country for more than 14 years, isn't it? He was Finance Minister for 5 years and Prime Minister for 9 years. You ask Congress people about the challenge of poverty, challenge of unemployment, challenge of recession, challenge of negative growth in agriculture, farmer suicide, closing down of small scale and intermediate scale of units, and they say we have solution. They have no solution. But then they don't have courage of truth. Aam Aadmi Party is saying that there are old questions which are asking new answers. It's 21st century India. And this 21st century India needs 21st century answers. And where are the answers? Answers are with people who are working with those problems. The nuts and bolts people, the social movement people, the experts who have put 20 years, 30 years. You have to open your ears all the way to Amartya Sen to Medha Patkar. Your bureaucrats don't have solution, and of course your incompetent leaders have no solution. And that's why they are a series of failures. They get the opportunity, clear mandate in many cases, and the delivery is so bad that next time election and they are certainly pushed out. It happened with Chandrababu Naidu. It happened with Mayawati, Lalu Prasad, Mulayam Singh, CPM. Why? Because they have closed their eyes and ears about changing dimension of problems. So friends, Aam Aadmi Party is inviting you to come up with your own tiny problem and your tiny solution and suggestion. I just closed by suggesting what happened in the previous time, when there was an innocent man who became Prime Minister because of a tragedy, Shri Rajiv Gandhi. He came, and just like I have been invited, Yogendra has been invited, he was invited by Indian Council to meet Indians abroad. And he had a meeting in New York where a lot of Indians were invited. And some of the Indians had the courage to say that, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, we welcome you as Prime Minister, we congratulate you, but we also alert you that you have taken a huge task and there are some problems about which your party has no understanding. World is moving on. This is time of ICT revolution, and Congress party is still stuck with the old model and old solution. Rajiv was honest enough to tell them, okay, tell me, what is your suggestion? And there was this small problem of goiter, घेगा का बीमारी. इसका solution बहुत आसान है. Iodine deficiency से बीमारी होता है. आपको दुकान में 2 तरह का नमक रख देना चाहिए. Normal नमक and iodized salt. And the बीमारी will be taken care of. Polio. Every mohalla, every village has polio affected people. इसका बहुत आसान समाधान है. हर बच्चे को 3 साल के अंदर 2 बार 2 ड्रॉप पिला दो. और मुसलमान नहीं सुनेगा, हिंदू नहीं सुनेगा, सिख नहीं सुनेगा, ईसाई नहीं, कहा सुनाना पड़ेगा. You use your talent. And then a campaign was launched. Information. Telephone was a privilege. Middle class का identity था. Telephone का कोटा था. Member of Parliament who was supposed to make Constitution of India and reform the laws of India was allotting telephone and gas connections. Today, telephone is just there for the asking. And how it happened? There was an interface between people who were working in the frontier areas of knowledge and technology and the policymakers. And policymakers were modest enough to open their ears and minds to the new solutions. Today, Aam Aadmi Party is the first party, and I think this process will open up to others also, to ask other people that, please tell us your solution. You have put 20 years as a doctor, as an engineer, as a scientist, as an educationist. Please tell us where we are going wrong. And this will require decentralized, federalized India. This will require a Jila Sarkar. In Brazil, there was problem of pathology of liberalization. Lula, a man who started as a shoe shine boy, became the president of the republic. And he had this huge problem of rebuilding Brazil, right? What did he do? He allowed district level participatory democracy models of district planning. Some cases they failed, some cases they succeeded. And people felt, yes, this is a new methodology. I think Aam Aadmi Party has a new methodology where elections are important and therefore party has to be created. But elections backed by mobilization. Elections are important and therefore candidates have to be selected. But candidates not selected by the high command, but selected by ordinary people of the area कि इनको हम जानते हैं, ये चुनाव में लड़ेंगे नहीं, मुझे मालूम है ये बहुत, या मान लीजिए कि हिमांशु टाइप आदमी तो अच्छे हैं लेकिन चुनाव के चक्कर में नहीं पड़ेंगे क्योंकि लोगों का पैर नहीं छुएंगे, लोगों का हाथ नहीं छोड़ेंगे, गंगा गए गंगादास, जमुना गए जमुनादास नहीं बनेंगे, वेरी प्रिंसिपल पर्सन, पकड़ो इसको, इसी को नेता बनाना है. That mood is now returning with the initiative of Aam Aadmi Party, and I leave at this point for you to consider some of the very hard questions. I have come with a time monitor, Shivudaya Jariwala, and he's getting unhappy and unhappy and unhappy that now you are moving from 4 C's to rambling. Stop talking and let your ears be open and mouth be closed. I must thank you for this initiative. I have worked 30 years ago against our government's failures in the days of democracy. I have walked through this area from Bell of Liberty to United Nations, and I know how hard it is to mobilize even 5 Indians for any national concern, national challenge. Because most of us are people in exile. Heart is there, body is here, and we are very unhappy with ourselves. How can we be confident about any collective initiative? I think you have to be confident because for last 2 years, there has been a consistently growing circle of idealist activists who are not only frustrated about the present failures, who are also very